Hello and welcome to another podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. It is episode 4 of Life Without FPL, where we talk about stuff that's not necessarily strictly FPL related, something outside the box. Today I'm going to be talking to 2 of the 3 creators of Championship Manager FPL. And I know that not everyone listening is necessarily playing, but in this podcast, it's not really a who should you pick out of 2 players type podcast. It's more going to be how the game was built, what the struggles have been, obviously the positives as well, how it all got started and that kind of thing. So I think it'll be useful to listen to even if you're not necessarily playing. So today I am joined by Dave and James. Dave, how are you doing?
Good, thanks Andy. Thanks for having me on.
No worries, glad to have you on. And James, you doing good?
Yep, doing good.
Good to have you both. What I thought we would do is just quickly introduce you both so you can just let us know where people can find you on Twitter and how long you've been playing regular FPL. That's kind of the only FPL thing we'll talk about. And then we'll get into kind of how the game came about and just take it from there. So, Dave, do you want to go first? Just let us know where people can find you, how you got into FPL and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. So I am at simplegoal_FPL on Twitter. So feel free to come and say hello. I got into FPL years ago. So I think I started playing when I was probably still doing my A-levels or early uni, just playing with friends, doing mini leagues. It was very casual for the first few years. And then somewhere out of the blue, I started taking it very seriously indeed. So I've been playing it seriously now for probably 10 plus years. Unfortunately, I've got my first few seasons, I've got a bit of a poor rank that ruins the rest of it, but I've been taking it seriously for a long time and I love it, yeah.
And you've got 3 top 1K finishes, did I see that?
I do, yeah.
Oh, that was
I was top 30 on the Fantasy Football Scout Hall of Fame for a bit, but I had a bad one last year that's knocked me down.
What did you finish last year?
About 65k, I think.
Oh, that ain't so bad. I thought you were going to say something like really, really low, like 3 top 1K.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad. I always try and shoot for top 10k, as everyone does, but I'll take 65.
Yeah, top 10k is pretty standard, I think. And how about you, James? Where can people find you, and how did you get into FPL?
I'm on Twitter, although I don't tweet very often. I'm not sure. At James Elaprine, I think is my name. So feel free to come and follow me, but you might not see me say anything very much. I've been playing FPL only for maybe 2-3 seasons. I think I beat Dave last year, though, which is impressive. I've never got anywhere near top 1,000. I used to play TFF, Telegraph, a long time ago. I used to play that. I think my first season was 2005, 2006. When I was at uni, and I played it for a few years. Really, well, I had plenty of time on my hands at uni, but then didn't really play again until recently. I played FPL again.
Good stuff. Yeah. So you've been a fantasy player for a while, even if not strictly FPL. So in terms of like creating an FPL game, we'll start with you, Dave. How did the idea come about originally to do this?
So I mean, Champman. I played Champman loads in my teenage years. It was a big thing for me. And I've always thought that in international breaks especially international breaks, because they're so boring, like having something to fill the place with would be good. So I don't know how, but somehow it put my mind together, the 2 things, that actually Champman could work really well because it's sort of quite fun, quite realistic, but also got the nostalgia element, and it can be a bit silly at times as well. And I basically started putting together a spreadsheet one evening and thinking, okay, would the points work like FPL, and realised that it pretty much would. And then never really thought too much of it, but actually then when this came about with the coronavirus stuff, I basically just put a throwaway tweet out there saying, hey, I'm not going to be talking about FPL now because it's not going to happen, but if anyone thinks this would be a good idea, would anyone be interested? Thinking maybe like a handful of people might say yes. And that's really, it's just rolled from there.
Yeah, I think one thing you can never underestimate is FPL players and their urge and want to play some kind of fantasy game. So James, how did you kind of get involved, and like did you guys know each other before, or was it just because of this it's all come together?
Yeah, I'm not very active on Twitter. I like to listen. I like to follow on the conversations on Twitter, but on FPL, and I'm only really on Twitter for FPL, but don't really say anything. But I did actually tweet. I think it was the same day that Dave was tweeting his plea for some Champman, and I did tweet separately that we should be doing some sort of FPL to cover the gap. And then later on, I saw Dave's tweet, and I just said, "Oh, I can help you with the spreadsheets," and thought nothing more of it. And then I think it was a couple of days later, maybe, that Dave asked me to think it was a couple of questions on how this might work and how that might work, and I thought I'll just build one and show you.
What you've produced is such a total other level to what we ever imagined. I think Andy, FPL tactician, the third member of our little trio, he put the tweet out and I think said, could someone help us with spreadsheets? And we were imagining something so simple, and what's turned out is incredible.
Yeah, you can see it in the background of James's Zoom call here. The spreadsheet, like if anyone's not playing it, is super in depth. Like I can't even do basic stuff in Excel and on spreadsheets, so this is far beyond my reach. So that is a good segue, though. So James, I assume you're kind of you're in charge of the spreadsheet side. Like how have you split up the kind of different roles, or what do you all do for the game to get it running?
Yeah, I mean, I made the spreadsheet so we could get going. Dave here made a group chat so we could start discussing things. It was quite frantic at the beginning, basically trying to build a spreadsheet and then thinking, that should be a bit better than this, should be a bit better, and going through a couple of iterations. And we had to grab a bunch of testers and get it tested and weed out a lot of bugs. So we got the spreadsheet up and running. Once the spreadsheet's up and running, it needs constant attention, but broadly speaking, that part of it's done. And in a good week, you can just spend some time actually enjoying the game a little bit and enjoying the enthusiasm.
So, like most of the issues with that were kind of at the start, and it's kind of plain sailing now, or mostly plain sailing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I feel like James. I've got to say, I feel like maybe James is underplaying himself a little bit there in terms of. I think we all worked pretty hard at the beginning, but you've done a great job of keeping those spreadsheets up and live. And every week, there's usually something that's sort of needing to be troubleshot, or people whose sheets have gone wrong, or whatever. But I mean, broadly speaking, I suppose I set up the group chat, like you said, and me and Andy sort of worked on the price list to begin with. And I also do the commentaries and doing the sort of the match day Twitter thing. And Andy broadly looks after the Twitter account, although we sort of all dabble here and there where we can and where we've got the skills to do so. But that's broadly how it works out.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, just for kind of anyone that's not following, I'll link all the Twitter accounts and stuff below. There is a stream that you guys do, you and Andy, and obviously Andy is the third FPL tactician, like you already said, is the third creator of this game. So you do a stream every Sunday at 9:30, I think it is, not rather than 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's every 9:30. So if you want to check that out, you can do that. So once you kind of got the idea going and got everything running, got people involved and stuff like that, how tough was it to get it off the ground? Or was it literally just the spreadsheet that was the issue? Were there other things that you ran into, Dave, like prices? Like how annoying was that to do, or how the game was going to run week to week? Was there any kind of frustrations or difficulties getting it off the ground?
I mean, there's always difficulties, but to be honest, putting the price list together was one of the most fun things of the whole bit of it. I love that. I'd happily do that every month if I could, redo the prices. Then people would be too happy. But with that was really fun, and me and Andy bounced some different stuff together on terms of possible pricing, and then tested it with a bunch of people. It really just, the momentum, from my perspective, the momentum seemed to just run away. Once we got past sort of 20, 30 interested people, it just really went crazy. I don't know what you think, James.
Yeah, I mean, we started dabbling with the spreadsheets. We weren't envisaging thousands. We were joking thousands maybe, but we weren't envisaging thousands, and we really shouldn't be doing thousands on a spreadsheet like this. And that's probably the biggest challenge, just keeping the spreadsheet sort of hanging together with so many people trying to use them.
Yeah, we did put out some community questions, and one of the ones that came in that I kind of already was going to ask was from Perlo's Pen, who said, what are the biggest struggles you face when running the game? So the spreadsheets, I mean, you're up over 2,000 players now? Like, what's the kind of...
There's 2,000 spreadsheets out there, but a lot of them are created, and we had a problem at the beginning where some of them never really arrived at the user. And obviously you've got other people who sign up but never actually turn up and play. So we've got more than 2,000 spreadsheets, but I think we've got about 1,400 very active users.
Yeah, very active. How many more like players, active players, could the spreadsheets handle? Because I haven't got a clue how that works. Is there a case that there's like a cut off where it just won't work anymore?
I mean, I'd never used Google Sheets before, so I was just sort of seeing how far it could go. We think 2,000 seems to run quite stable. Kind of happy having 1,500 or so that are all actively playing is a good position to be in.
It's a bit of a balancing act as well, because obviously incorporating new players is possible potentially, but it also could break things. It could also make things go wrong. It also takes a lot of time and attention to get those up and running. So it's trying to work out the best way to include as many people as possible and also give the best possible experience to people who are playing it.
The biggest struggle by far, the biggest single struggle is the balancing act of trying to bring in more people, but also trying to engage the people we have and balance with the capacity of the sheets.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. If you could go back in time and do it all again, is there anything that you would change? Like one thing that you would maybe do differently, or that now you've kind of been running it for so long that would make things easier?
I mean, I'm just thinking about all the nice relaxing in the garden and sleep I could have had if I hadn't got involved.
But during lockdown, you need something to keep you busy. So I guess there's that at least if you're going to be staying home. Although I don't know about where you guys are living, but it's been pretty nice weather over here recently. So yeah, the relaxing in the garden I can see. How about you, Dave? Is there anything that you would change if you could go back and do it again?
I've got to say I'm pretty pleased with how we've done it. It's not to say it's been perfect, but in terms of how we've rolled it out and how quickly and how well it's all gone, I'm really happy. I think there's probably a few players that I'd change the price of. There's a few that I'd bring down, and there's a couple that I would bring up. And there's always tweaks you can make to the rules or different things that you could try, but I think you've got to balance it all out with actually overall it's gone really, really well. So yeah, probably there's a few player prices, but in terms of the actual main structure of it, I'm really pleased with how it's gone.
Do you think there's any rules that you could change though? Because like for anyone that's not playing again, the rules are basically, correct me if I'm wrong, they're the same as FPL, apart from there's no price changes. Because I imagine price changes week to week would be extremely difficult to do. But is there any particular rule that you would want to change? Because I mean, the beauty of FPL is it's so simple, right? So it's easy, accessible, easy to understand, and you just get going. So is there anything you'd change, Dave?
I mean, we one of the things we haven't done is so the game awards assists in it, and they don't award assists in FPL. So, for instance, if a striker has a shot and the keeper saves it and the rebound scored, FPL awards that as assist. We don't. I sort of feel like for fun, maybe we should have put that in as a rule and included that. It can just get a bit of a grey area sometimes. I don't want to jump ahead too much, but I saw that Luke, Fantasy Football Scout Luke, had a suggestion as well about mid-season, basically having a pause mid-season, force a wildcard in the middle of the season, and then we could tweak the prices so that we could make, for instance, Van Nistelrooy is performing well. He's in a lot of teams. We could make him 14 million instead of 13 million, which he currently is, and we could bring down the prices of some players. That's an interesting rule, I think, because it means that you sort of give yourself a chance to correct pricing errors, bring more players into the game, make them more pickable. Because I think the key to a good fantasy game really is having as many players as possible as decent, viable options. And there's probably 20-ish players that feel just a little bit too expensive, which is better than too cheap. But I think that is potentially a nice way around that. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people have differing opinions, I would say, on price changes and whether they should be a thing, and whether they should be as active as they are in actual FPL, where they're kind of daily, whether they should be end of the. What do you think, James? Do you like price changes?
I mean, price changes in normal FPL, I find them very frustrating, to be honest. But I understand how they do add something, and I do like Luke's idea about doing something halfway through the season, but to refresh it a little bit. But price changes are also bad because they railroad people down certain paths as well. Once you start chasing players who are going up in price and whatnot, it would have been technically quite difficult to do them as well, and probably time consuming. Although I think Dave would have maybe enjoyed dabbling with them.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of price changes, but I think one of the other things is it really puts pressure on us, because if we have a busy week in just normal life, we've got families and jobs and all that stuff, then people will say, oh, why haven't the prices changed, or why this error's gone wrong? I think it just creates a time pressure, and I quite like that in FPL, the time pressure element, something else to think about. But for this, I feel like 2 game weeks a week is enough to think about and be busy with without price changes.
Yeah, for sure. You've actually we have got some community questions which I was going to do at the end, but some of them do kind of tie in with what you're talking about. So we'll do a couple now. So one was FPL Dougal, and you've mentioned the kind of time restraints and how long it takes you each week to not only get the game off the ground, but also to keep it going. Because again, for anyone that's not playing, there's tweets that have to be. I assume you set up the tweets in advance and schedule them all. For how the game runs. So that's like 2 hours for the Saturday afternoon games and stuff like that. So there's a lot to be doing. To get back to the question, FPL Dougal said, do your significant others or family understand what you're doing, first of all? Because I know it can sometimes be difficult to explain FPL generally, let alone FPL based on Championship Manager. And are they supportive? So let's start with you, James. How do you find it, trying to tell people you know what you're doing?
My other half, I've got young kids who are not old enough to get into football yet, particularly. Although I was showing my oldest son, I was showing the spreadsheet, and he said he'd play it when he's older. That was an endorsement. But the other half not into football at all. She barely understands or cares that I play FPL. I kind of didn't. I told her I was working on a project. I didn't kind of mention what it was until a bit later. She was exasperated that I was so busy working on the project. She did, even though she has no interest, she did get excited, or she did sort of think it must be something good because I said it was going to be on the BBC. So that got me out of jail for a little while. Just the fact that my name appeared on the BBC.
Yeah, that'll help out anyone. How about you, Dave? How have your family taken it?
Yeah, so I've also got young kids, but my wife's been really supportive in terms of, she knows I love fantasy football. She will walk around the house and hear me listening to various podcasts and things like, Andy, your voice is on in our house sometimes, and you're a household name in our house. So it's she's used to like all that sort of stuff. So I think she's basically supportive of it, but I think at times she's been a bit annoyed about how much time it takes, especially before the season started. Literally every single night, from when the kids went to bed till midnight and beyond, every night was just busy. And I think a little after the season started, we managed to have a bit of recovery period and actually hang out and chat and things like that. But generally, she's been very supportive. I think the fact that so many people are loving it, she really appreciates the fact that it's doing something good, and that's a good feeling for me too.
Yeah, I think my partner's pretty supportive of everything I do, although she has learned to just zone out if I'm talking rubbish. Like trying to tell her that I was captaining Alan Shearer in an FPL game. Like, Alan Shearer, why are you captaining Alan Shearer? So yeah, she just zones out after a while, and we just leave it at that. But generally fairly supportive. So that's good that you guys are getting that. And I think I can kind of speak on behalf of all the community. They really appreciate all the kind of hours and stuff that you've put in. It's given people a lot of because I mean at the end of the day it's lockdown. A lot of people are very bored, and it's kind of give them a break of kind of monotony, I suppose. And you mentioned again, like we haven't pre-planned this, but you guys are great for the old segues. The BBC. You obviously featured on there recently about the game, obviously everything that occurred there. So how did that happen? Did someone just get in touch with you and it just went from there, Dave?
Yeah, so on Twitter, Alex Bysouth, he works for the BBC Sports Department as a journalist, and he is playing the game. So he obviously is active on FPL Twitter. So he saw it and got in touch and said, would we be interested in talking to him for an interview? So he sent me some questions and then it went up on BBC, which was very cool to see. But it was interesting. He's done a couple of other articles on Champman for BBC Football, and I noticed he's put something up there today as well about it. But he said he got to interview Tonton Zola Mukoko as part of his job, which is pretty cool. So it's nice to be in touch with him as well.
What a great name that is! And how did you find it, James? Did you find like there was a lot more interest after that article? Did you get a lot more like people wanting to start the game?
I mean, we threw up a form for requests to play after that. It didn't. I mean, a few hundred people did suddenly want to get involved, but I think there's people who actively play any form of fantasy FPL, obviously mainly on Twitter, who all knew it was there from the start, got involved from the start. I think it's a different type of player who tries to join later on if they see it on the BBC. Definitely, when we made a lot of sheets for some of those people, a lot of them never actually turned up to play.
Yeah, that's cool. I guess it makes sense as well. You get kind of people who are just they want to play it, but then they realise it actually takes a bit of time, and then just can't be bothered, I suppose. What do you think is the best thing? Come to you first, Dave. What do you think the best thing is about running an FPL game, or has been so far?
So I've got two things. I don't want to steal them if they're probably the same as James, but Two things. So one has just been seeing the community that's built around it, and that has been absolutely amazing. So anyone that's playing the game knows about it, but there's loads of interaction on Twitter, which is great. But also James from Planet FPL does a Soccer Saturday style stream, which is 2.5 hours on a Saturday and on a Wednesday, which has been absolutely brilliant fun. We've got FPL Doodles has just done something today. It just feels like real life FPL, but with Chatman, just seeing people just give their time, energy, effort. There's a guy called Rob Pick who's started his own Scout account. It's been phenomenal just to see people jump on board and do it. So a big shout out to everyone who's done that stuff, and it's been lovely to see. And just to, like you said, giving people stuff to do during lockdown, that's really rewarding. I feel like really positive. And the other thing is I love knowing what's happening in advance, because like there's a guy called Selakovic, who's a bit of a CM legend, and he has joined Spurs and he's very highly owned. And at the weekend, he missed a penalty. And I knew it was coming, and I knew that the reaction was going to be big. And I know it sounds a bit masochistic maybe, but when you're not playing properly yourself, you got to have something to look forward to. And being able to just sit there and wait and count down and watch and see people's reactions, that is very fun, I've got to say.
Yeah, I should explain, I suppose, that because obviously it's based on a game, and that you're setting all the tweets and stuff up in advance for all the action over a Saturday. So obviously you've already run the game, so you guys aren't playing, are you? You've got ghost teams, right? Is that right?
Yeah, we've each got a zombie team picked it before the start of the season.
And who's
only a 90 million budget, so they're all like very low value differential players.
And who's winning at the moment?
I've temporarily taken the lead, I think.
Nice, still
just
plenty.
in time for this, just for me. But Andy actually got team of the week. Week just gone. Yeah. Andy got 91 points, and it was a low scoring week. But he has all these random players, and including it was the first week he even had a goalkeeper playing at all, and he managed to get team of the week. So fair play to him.
Andy was bottom before that.
Yeah, bottom the whole thing.
Geez, that's proper roller coaster, up and down. Yeah, I think that's why I kind of had to say it, because obviously you know what's happening in advance. So I can fully get behind why that would be a cool thing to know. And I do have Selakovic, so I'm annoyed at him at the moment. I'm thinking about getting rid of him. What's the best thing for you, James, about running an FPL game?
Echoing Dave's sentiment, the engagement has been unbelievable from the sort of 1,000, 1,500 people, and not just that. There's probably, I think we've got 3,500 followers on the official Twitter account. A lot of other people getting involved, even if they're not playing. Massive effort, unbelievable effort, probably exceeding the effort that we've put into making the game on balance to get involved. So obviously there's a massive thirst for it. It is fun. It is strange that it's mostly fun when something's going to wreck people's teams to know it in advance. I don't know what that says about us, but it is fun knowing all in advance, and it's getting access, seeing what transfers are being made, and getting access to that information before it's public. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, because I didn't start straight away. I think I started in game week 5. And I genuinely was loving the tweets like beforehand. Like as soon as I've mentioned it on other podcasts already, but as soon as I think it was game week 1 when Ian Hart missed that penalty, I just had to laugh because I knew everyone would have him, and I just knew the frustration. Even though it's about a computer game, about virtual, a FPL game, and then he missed that penalty. So yeah, I was following beforehand and watching the highs and lows, because people getting just as frustrated with this as they would, watching their player play live on a 3 p.m. Saturday afternoon game. So it's been pretty funny to watch.
Absolutely. But my favourite thing by far, a couple of times it's happened, and it kind of happened to me one day as well. So Dave mentioned James's stream every game day. He's got that looking fantastic with the Sky Sports style graphics. And he rambles away for 2 hours commentating on Dave's commentary of the games. And if you're sitting in the garden or you've got the stream on, it feels like a normal Saturday. It feels like there's games on. And a few people have actually said that they felt like turning the radio on because they felt like they could tune into the commentary.
Yeah, he's done a really good job on that, and the graphics on that look really cool now. Cause it's just been, just basically been improved upon as it's gone on. It's gone from, I think it was just him on camera at first, and now, it's properly set up like Sky Sports News. So that is really cool. There's actually a lot of kind of questions came in around keeping the game going through, if this season ends, will you keep the game going? And also, not just that, people want it back when there's no FPL again. So even if we get back to normal, the season comes back. Obviously, you sometimes have fantasy games for like the World Cup and the Euros, but that's only every kind of other year. So we'll come to you first, Dave. Do you think, Are there plans to keep the game going once this season's over? And does that depend on lockdown? Is it a case of once lockdown's gone, you're going to stop, or you're going to keep it going?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get back to normal. I think everyone wants FPL back. I certainly do. But I think, yeah, we definitely consider it. I think there's a lot that's up for grabs, and there's a lot that can change very quickly in time. And I think for now, our focus is just on making this season as fun and as good as possible. So that if it were just to be this season, we'd all look back on it and think that was so fun. Having said that, like, we've toyed with various ideas. There's international breaks, there's off season, like you said, there's different possibilities. So I think it's something we're open to. It's obviously a lot of work and a lot to think about if we take it on again in future. But I think if the community really wants it, and if we can make it work with our lives, I think it's something we'd definitely be open to, we'll consider. I mean, I'd like to see how that game world develops, players moving, hitting form, missing form. It sort of feels like we're in a little world now, and we want to know what happens.
Yeah, and I suppose like a lot of people did did sims and stuff for this season. I don't know if it would then be as easy to do sims going on for kind of second and third seasons. That might actually make it a bit, even a little bit more interesting than it already is. Just starting from scratch, I suppose. And James, from like a tech point of view, now you've kind of got it set up, would it be easy to swap it to another game, or would it create a whole load more work for you?
No, I mean, the only reason why it's been built the way it has is because it was fun to do it. So we were going to try and do more. If we were going to adapt it or try and do something different, that would be what would create fun for me to build. As Dave said, I think the main focus has to be, we can't, game week 8 or 9, we can't be thinking about next season on this game we've just invented. We should enjoy the game here and now. And I think it'll be a big test for it when real football comes back. We'll see what appetite there is for this on top of real football. But I again, agreeing with Dave, I think the game world and understanding what's going to happen to these players, I think people have become invested in these players' virtual careers, parallels with Hart being the game's TAA, although he's a troll, is he underperforming, etc. Selakovic, murmurs come up when some people in the know that he's going to be good. So it's got its own life. And as you said, I think it would be good if it went on to future seasons within the same game, and more mystique and more divergence from reality.
Yeah, I think Ian Hart has definitely been a fraud so far. I'm not happy with him either. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like game week 8 and 9 is probably, over 38 game week seasons, probably too early. But it definitely shows there's a passion there for continued play. And yeah, it will be interesting to see, I guess, what the engagement's like once FPL is back, so we'll have to see there. Kind of sticking on the tech side, there was a question here. I don't know how much you can go into this, but FPL Whisperer asked, would be interested to know the formulas behind automatically updating all the sheets and how you manage to get the proper points for all players each game week. Is it automated now, or do you have to brute force it?
So, actually, it's Dave who does the hard work, because he's having to play the game, but that's the fun part, and then he's having to transcribe the points from hundreds of screenshots. I think he's had a bit of help to get that to be more automated, but it's always challenges. And then I get the fun part. The points update's fun for me because I just flip a switch and then the points flow through into the sheets, and then frantically try and make sure that's all worked properly. Updating the sheets more complicated because we have to take copies of everybody's team and put them in the right place, and I'm understanding with Google Sheets that sometimes the connection doesn't stay in, so therefore when it's trying to pick up someone's team, it doesn't pick it up, and then have to go and fix it manually. So there's lots of little bits and challenges. If FPL Whisperer wants to know how it all works behind the scenes, then I'll happily take him through the sheets.
Sounds good. You're going to have a DM as soon as this goes live, I'd say.
Have a separate sheet cast where all the Excel heads get together and do their bits. That'd be good. I was just going to say, to add to that, guy called Lordy Leroy on Twitter he's put together something that basically I take the screenshots. He then takes the screenshots away, and he's got a character recognition program that will peel off some of the information. So things like appearances, goals, and now assists are all done automatically. But then I have to go through and manually check and also add in any other extra bits of data. So it's a bit of work, but it's getting better.
Do you want to? How long does that take? Is that something you want to try and forget about?
No, it's actually not too bad. It was much slower before when I had to enter every player name, every match rating, every minute they played. That was really much more time consuming. Now it's, I don't know, maybe if I had to guess, I'd say somewhere between half an hour and an hour per game week to do that. The commentary takes longer.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I already kind of knew this, but I think this is just showing us some very clever and also extremely engaged people in the community, like taking, character recognition of images and stuff like that to get points in for your FPL game. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. There's Whitebeard is another guy who's built his own site for it with loads of data and tables and charts. And I know that he's got about 5 or 10 people working with him to like pull off all this data off of multiple spreadsheets. I send them 50 screenshots a week, and they pull all the information off those.
Yeah, I would echo that. Whitebeard's his site is extremely handy. I tend to use that just before. Like, I basically use a mix of both. Some stuff from the spreadsheet, so the fixtures tab, all my players obviously, and the fixtures that are coming for the next week. And then I use Whitebeard for kind of just to sift through the different players. So yeah, I'll give that a shout. I'll leave all the links to everything we've kind of talked about below if anyone wants to check that stuff out. Just a few other things that come back. Like, one thing I was quite interested to know is how did this idea come from day one, or did it kind of develop? Because I think the one great thing about this game is not just there's an FPL game to play that you can pick your players. It's kind of the experience that goes with it. So like having a scout account, like you said earlier, was from Rob, that has team leaks every week. How did that come about? Was that an idea from the start? Was that the kind of idea from the start? Not just to have a game, but also to have the experience as well, Dave. Was that kind of what you were thinking about?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it all builds. So if it's like 20 of you playing together, you're probably not going to bother with that sort of thing. But once it started to get a bit of a life of its own, I think it quickly became apparent that building the world and building the experience of it would be part of it. So we talked about all sorts of things. Like we talked about doing 20 manager press conferences on the 2 days before a game. We talked about team leaks. We talked about all sorts of things. It really is the sky's the limit in terms of what you could do. So stuff like team links is just a bit of fun just to add in and give something for people to think about and some choices to make. And we always try and make it something that's sort of a bit relevant to people's teams, so players with some ownership, but also hopefully something that sort of adds a bit of extra dimension to it. So do I pick them? Do I not? That sort of stuff. And yeah, it's just fun building the world. I know James is into that as a whole idea as well.
Yeah, have you been involved with any of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the only fun we get because we don't get to play. So we see it from our perspective, and we kind of like to play with people and like to play with the knowledge that's out there. Obviously, the guys do the stream, and I think some very avid viewers hanging on every word they're saying on the stream, looking at the game. Rob likes to tease people with the information we give him as well, so it's fun. Just small things like one night on a group chat there was a discussion about CFAX, so the next day we chucked up a CFAX, and then everyone's loving that as well. So that's the fun for us, is to try and think of things that people will enjoy and deepen the experience.
Just to add to that as well, it's obviously, you could get the price point all perfect and create like a really nice game that works really well. But actually, if you don't have the little quirks and the little fun bits and sort of use a bit of psychology and a bit of game design and all of that stuff in it, then it would just feel a bit dry, I think. Whereas hopefully the way that it's working and loads of community input as well, it feels like a much more well-rounded experience.
I actually think that's one of the cool advantages you have, is that you already know what's happened, so you can tease people a bit more. Obviously, in real FPL, sometimes you get really juicy team news. Like if everyone's got Jamie Vardy and he's not going to play the next match, that's really great. But sometimes you get, I don't know, like Ndidi's injured, and yes, that makes a difference to the defence maybe, but no one actually owns him, so it's not that exciting. So knowing what it is and then planting that is a really cool idea. Just to round off, I think, obviously you've now got a bit of experience with running an FPL game yourselves. And we'll start with you, James. Do you think and now based on what you've done and how you've got it set up and stuff, do you think there's anything that FPL should change, or generally, even if it's not to do with running the game, is there anything you'd like to see FPL change going forward?
I think that the FPL Twitter account tries to be quite cheeky and give a little bit of engagement. I think it could do more. I think some of the stuff that we've done, I like FPL Graphics has done FPL Graphics has done some little goal alert graphics, which I think are fantastic. Subtle, they're just, they add to the experience in the moment when your players scored. I think they could look at things like that.
Yeah, I think the clubs do them actually. So yeah, it'd be cool to have them added. What about you, Dave? Anything you'd like to see changed?
I think in general, I feel pretty happy with FPL. It's one of those things where there's various debates at different times about what they could or couldn't do differently. But I think if it's not broke, don't fix it. So I play Sky as well. Obviously in Sky, you've got a bit more planning. You don't have price changes. And I enjoy both those games in different ways. So I think there's nothing that's particularly stood out to me. Like James says, there's some stuff maybe they could improve in communication or whatever. But again, for me, it's the community that makes it, and playing with my friends and all that stuff as well. So I'd like to be able to join more mini leagues, but that's nothing to do with what we've done this time, I've got to be honest.
Yeah, I wonder if there's something behind that. Maybe it's a tech limitation or something. But yeah, 15. I always hit the 15. I feel bad that I have to tell people I can't join any more leagues. So yeah, it does run out pretty quickly. The only thing I would like to see change is the cup. I'd like to see a free hit every single week to just make it a bit more engaging. So I find at the moment you're just not really worrying about it. It's just, if you win, you win. If you don't, you don't, and you just move on week to week. So yeah, I'd like to see that. All right, I think we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for joining me today. Like I said, some point in this podcast, I'll leave all the links below to kind of your Twitter accounts and the main one. So even if people can't join or they don't want to join, they can still follow on with it. So yeah, thanks very much, James.
Thank you very much for having us.
No worries. Thanks as well, Dave, for coming on.
Thanks very much, Andy. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, you too, actually. Good to meet you both for the first time. If you've enjoyed this, make sure to give it a like. Subscribe if you're new around here, if you're watching on YouTube, and leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. Otherwise, we will catch you next time. Thanks very, very much, everyone.